Right now, Catholics Care, a university, is coming out of quarantine to donate excess classroom medical supplies to the Queen's Hospital in dire need.
It's really about giving back and paying forward.
1 in 1,000, the attack rate right here in the epicenter. That's 5 times other areas. Plus, live masses, services in 7 languages to keep you connected to Christ in this crisis.
I'm Tim Hartman. I'll give you a behind-the-scenes look coming up.
We're very grateful that we have them.
And the battle begins. 2 Navy hospitals are on their way into combat as the fight against coronavirus continues. The news starts right now.
I don't want our healthcare workers who are doing God's work. They are doing God's work.
Governor Andrew Cuomo describing the heroes on the front lines of the coronavirus fight in New York. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The governor is warning that coronavirus cases in New York are doubling every 3 days. The biggest emergency the state is facing right now is getting much needed medical supplies to our hospitals. One of the top Catholic universities in the city is making sure equipment gets to those who need it most, a hospital in Queens. Currents News' Emily Druby has the story from Jamaica.
A scene of hope and humanity. Boxes and boxes of St. John's University medical equipment packed up and driven over to New York Presbyterian Queens Hospital.
They were very happy. As you know, this is a growing issue across the country here, the need for these medical supplies.
The school has been on lockdown for 2 weeks. Classrooms are empty, students are learning from home, but still a small group of staff, including Brian Brown, spent their Tuesday fighting back against the coronavirus.
Our students have now gone home. They're learning remotely and virtually. So we want to give these extra supplies.
An important action. There's equipment shortages across New York as hospitals continue to fight the deadly disease. In fact, it's already so bad, Mayor Bill de Blasio says public hospitals only have about a week's worth of equipment and supplies left.
Donations include 186,000 medical gloves, 500 lab coats, 100 protective face masks, and 20 of these face shields.
It's a gesture born from the Catholic Vincentian mission, which has been embedded into their culture from the beginning.
St. John's was founded by the Congregation of the Mission, who are followers of St. Vincent de Paul. And St. Vincent de Paul was a great community organizer in 17th century France. And he asked the question to his followers, what must be done?
This might not be the only way the university aids in fighting the coronavirus crisis. They were listed by Governor Cuomo as a possible location for one of his temporary facilities, similar to what's being set up at the Javits Center. The school was toured by officials for that purpose on Friday. No decision has been handed down. In Jamaica, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Another brave group fighting through the coronavirus crisis is Catholic Charities of Brooklyn, Queens. They're hard at work right now to help anyone who needs it, offering emergency assistance with food, housing, and senior services. You can get in touch with them at ccbq.org. There's an update tonight on the number of coronavirus infections in the Diocese of Brooklyn. There are 23 confirmed cases in 14 churches. 3 of the patients are priests. All of the affected locations are undergoing deep cleanings following the guidelines of the CDC. And the overall number of positive coronavirus cases in the state of New York has now risen to 25,665, nearly 7% of the global total, with 210 deaths reported statewide. In New York City, there are 14,904 cases. 750 of those patients are in intensive care. Even as the outbreak surges across the 5 boroughs, President Donald Trump is signaling he wants to scale back on stay-at-home restrictions. Mayor Bill de Blasio is pleading with the White House for more help now that the city is the epicenter of the pandemic.
No one wants that distinction, not a single one of us, but it is true. And that's why we so desperately need help, particularly from our federal government, to get through it.
The White House Coronavirus Task Force revealing the virus has an attack rate of close to 1 in 1,000 in the New York metro area, with 28% of those tested being positive.
This is the group that needs to absolutely social distance and self-isolate at this time.
Despite the climbing numbers in New York, President Trump still suggesting he's eager to end the virtual nationwide shutdown as soon as next week, contradicting his own health experts.
Our country wasn't built to be shut down. This is not a country that was built for this. America will again and soon be open for business. Very soon.
And countering many officials in states battling exponentially rising cases.
We believe that social distancing, that's how you keep the pressure off the healthcare system.
Governor Andrew Cuomo visited the Javits Center, which the National Guard is quickly working to transform into a makeshift hospital with 1,000 beds.
We can scramble and create beds. We'll have a staff problem because staff are getting sick.
Even with the federal government stepping in to supply some crucial medical equipment like masks and gloves, officials say that's just a temporary solution.
Our national stockpile allotment covered one shift at a hospital.
Across the country, businesses continue to close and even parks and playgrounds are shuttered temporarily, all efforts to help flatten the curve.
I think it's necessary. I think an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Over 142 million Americans in at least 16 states will be under stay-at-home orders by Wednesday.
It's time to hunker down in order to win this fight.
By Wednesday, when all 16 state orders are in effect, more than 40% of the U.S. population will be officially urged to stay home. With New York's economic engine essentially shut down, the rise in jobless claims was to be expected, but still, the numbers are huge. The latest figures released by the state's Labor Department reflects just how many people are affected. At last week's count, there were over 1,700,000 total calls from New Yorkers filing for unemployment insurance and over 2,200,000 site visits. That's a 1,000% increase in claims in some parts of New York State. To address the unprecedented increase, the Labor Department has added server capacity, extended phone hours, and dedicated more than 700 staff members to meet the demand. On Capitol Hill, politics has prevented a massive relief package from getting through the Senate. Camila Bernal has the latest from Washington on the big stall.
The coronavirus pandemic forcing about a third of the world's population into some kind of lockdown. In the United States, more than 40% of people are under stay-at-home orders.
We think we have the chance to significantly reduce the spread of the coronavirus.
Some companies changing their business models to help Americans. Pizza Hut, Amazon, and Walmart are just some of the businesses hiring more workers. On Capitol Hill, the White House and Congress furiously negotiating a stimulus package to help people cope with the pandemic.
It's the most serious threat to Americans' health in over a century.
The roughly $2 trillion plan would provide a jolt to the economy and give aid to hard-hit workers and industries.
And hopefully we can get it over the finish line.
As the days go by without a compromise, the tense divide between Republicans and Democrats grows stronger. But now a bit of optimism as both sides hope a deal may be done soon.
We are very, very pleased with what seems to be moving forward in the bill, in the bipartisan bill.
In Washington, Camila Bernal, Currents News.
More now on big businesses joining forces to help produce much-needed medical equipment and protective gear. General Motors is working with Ventec Life Systems to boost production of ventilators. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles says it will make up to 1 million protective face masks a week. Ford is working with 3M to make respirators for healthcare workers and is teaming up with GE Healthcare to produce more ventilators. Ford's CEO explains how it all works.
The way you need to think about it is it's like a puzzle. So there'll be parts made inside Ford, there'll be parts made at GE, there'll be parts made at outside suppliers. And the coordination and speed of that is what we know is like a conventional assembly line. And we'll be setting lines up in those various places outside of Ford to put these together.
California's governor says Tesla CEO Elon Musk has donated 1,000 ventilators, and those ventilators will be put to good use in California hospitals treating COVID-19 patients, while this floating hospital on its way to Los Angeles right now will help other patients. More than 800 medical professionals are on the U.S. Navy hospital ship Mercy. It will dock in LA sometime this week to help relieve the strain being put on the city's hospitals because of the pandemic. The Navy is mobilizing its ships. The Army Corps of Engineers is on the ground building emergency hospitals. The role of the military in confronting the pandemic is growing almost by the hour. Joining us now is Archbishop Timothy Broglio, the leader of the U.S. Archdiocese of Military Services. Thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm very happy to be with you, even in the midst of this rather difficult situation.
Absolutely. And physically and logistically, how difficult is all of this, particularly for the military personnel involved?
Well, I think one of the first things we have to think about is giving thanks that we have a military that is standing, that we have the armed forces, that we have the reserves, that we have the National Guard, and also the Guard, who are ready to respond to a crisis situation. They're trained, they're well aware of what they have to do.
Yeah, one of those Navy ships you mentioned is on its way here to New York City. For the people at home who don't know, what is a naval hospital ship equipped to do? Do they have the same capabilities as a regular hospital?
Well, they do actually. It is a floating hospital, so they would have an emergency room, they would have operating rooms, and able to respond to the situation, much in the way of the hospital would be able to do so on land.
As they're supporting us, how can the American people support the brave men and women who are helping us?
I think we must be grateful and be thankful that they have responded to the invitation, because the military is less than 1% of our population, and yet they are there, and we depend on them. And we're very grateful that we have them.
All right, Archbishop Timothy Broglio, head of the nation's Archdiocese for Military Services, thank you for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And here are some other headlines on the coronavirus crisis. The Tokyo Summer Olympics have been postponed until at least next year. Some major hospitals in New York are telling moms they have to give birth alone since visitors are not allowed during the crisis. A top Muslim cleric in Iran, where the outbreak is severe, wants the Pope's help in lifting U.S. sanctions. And several Catholic charities are asking for congressional aid so they can continue to help the people they serve. Currents News is just getting started with all of the new developments on the crisis. Coming up, we'll take you behind the scenes to show you how Net TV is bringing church to your home. Plus, dozens of nuns in quarantine. More on the 2 convents where the coronavirus has spread. And he's the first U.S. bishop to test positive for COVID-19. We'll tell you where. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio has dispensed with the Sunday Mass obligation during the pandemic, but you can still participate in a daily live Mass right here on Net TV. Currents News' Tim Harfman was in Prospect Heights to give us a behind-the-scenes look at how the production staff at DeSales Media Group is getting more Masses on the air.
15, stand by for count. 15, stand by.
Net TV's bringing the faith directly into your home, channeling your beliefs on TV and online. Our parent company, DeSales Media Group, is broadcasting 14 live Masses in 7 different languages, now that public Masses are on hold.
We have a great blessing that technology allows the Mass, the Eucharist, to be very present to us, and spiritually, we recognize that we're in communion with one another, even though physically we are not able to receive Holy Communion.
Monsignor Kieran Harrington is the Vicar for Communications in the Brooklyn Diocese and says the crisis won't stop Catholics from worshiping.
While we have to social distance, God is very near to us.
Broadcasts are sent out from behind closed doors at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph, the Diocese of Immigrants, on full display through both weekday and Sunday masses, including Creole, Spanish, and more. Regardless of the language, priests say there must be faith.
We need to understand that it's different time, it's difficult, but it's different. The same God yesterday is the same today.
6-minute warning. The new initiative expands DeSales Media's usual broadcasts of English and Spanish masses.
It's been a little tight, been a little hectic, but we're getting the hang of it.
Masses are celebrated one right after the other, reaching hundreds of thousands of households.
Just feels good to bring the word of God and Jesus to life for these people.
All through the power of technology and prayer. In Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Catholics across the diocese are being urged to watch Mass right here on Net TV. Here's the schedule of live services Monday through Friday. 8 a.m. English, 8:30 Creole, 9 Spanish, 9:30 Polish, 10 Italian, 10:30 Chinese, and 11 a.m. the Korean Mass. Here's the schedule for live Sunday Masses. 8 a.m. Korean, 9 Creole, 10 Italian, 11 English, noon Polish, 1:30 p.m. Spanish, and 3 p.m. Chinese. Net TV is New York's Catholic station, and you can find it on Verizon's Fios Channel 48, on Optimum's Channel 30, and on Spectrum's Channel 97. The Mass schedule is online at netny.tv. Also in the news tonight, the Archbishop of New Orleans has tested positive for COVID-19. Archbishop Gregory Amond is the first Catholic bishop in the U.S. to publicly announce that he's infected. In a statement, the 70-year-old says he recently felt some mild symptoms and got tested out of an abundance of caution. He says he'll use his time in quarantine praying. Louisiana's governor says his state has the fastest growth rate of coronavirus cases in the world. During Mass at Casa Santa Marta today, the Pope prayed for the doctors, nurses, and priests who have died while treating coronavirus patients.
Preghiamo per loro, per le loro famiglie. E ringrazio a Dio per l'esempio di eroicità che ci danno nel curare gli ammalati.
In Italy alone, more than 50 priests have died of the virus. One of them gave up his ventilator so a younger patient could use it. Meanwhile, dozens of nuns in Rome are under quarantine tonight. Nearly 60 nuns in 2 convents have tested positive for the virus. Melissa Butts has the latest for us from nearby the Vatican.
2 convents are currently under quarantine right outside the Eternal City when many inside tested positive for the coronavirus. The tests were carried out last week, and at that point there had been 40 sisters who tested positive inside the convent of the Daughters of San Camillo. They had been praying together as a community. Likewise, 19 of the 21 angelic sisters of St. Paul had also tested positive for the virus. They work with children, but since the beginning of March, schools had been closed in Italy. I reached out to both convents, and neither one was able to answer and tell me if there are more cases or how many sisters are actually in intensive care. On Monday, though, the papal almoner, Cardinal Krajewski, actually brought milk and yogurt to the sisters as a sign of solidarity from Pope Francis. In Italy, there are more than 50 priests, mostly in the northern region, who have died from the coronavirus. In Rome, Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Spain has also suffered under the weight of the coronavirus crisis. Hospitals there are so overwhelmed with patients, they're running out of basic medical supplies. On top of that, 1 in 10 Spaniards with the disease are healthcare workers. One ICU nurse says he isn't shocked by that statistic.
No me sorprende en absoluto.
I'm not surprised at all. In fact, I'm sure the numbers are higher because they don't test us. The protection measures are decreasing as we are running out of material. And now, well, we're using garbage bags.
The bags are substitute protection gowns for the medical staff. Hospitals in Madrid are so overwhelmed, patients are actually lying on the floor. They're expecting some $25 million worth of protective gear to arrive this week. Not everyone can stay at home during the lockdown. Coming up, we'll take you to this soup kitchen and tell you why its volunteers are showing up every day. And it's a bird, it's a plane, nope, it's a flying priest. Why this New Jersey priest took to the skies. And here's a video feed from Times Square, the crossroads of the world, usually bustling with all sorts of activity, but not on this Tuesday evening. We'll be right back. In Italy, one group is breaking the mandatory lockdown so every person can have a meal. The Catholic community of Sant'Egidio is still serving impoverished people living in Rome every day. Using their soup kitchens, shelters, and vast volunteers, they're making sure no one feels alone during this pandemic.
We believe that in this moment, when authorities are asking us to stay home, we also have to think about those who don't have homes. The coronavirus has shown us that we will survive together. If we all become infected, things will end badly. We have to be responsible. We have to continue doing what we do in a new way. Fear doesn't help overcome the virus or stop contagion. That's why every evening from the Church of Sant'Egidio, we'd broadcast a prayer online in many different languages. Many people participate. In this moment, we need help praying.
That prayer is shown every day from the group's website at 6 p.m. Rome time or 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The community is still following safe practices while staying open, like keeping their distance from the people they serve and wearing protective gear. Priests are doing more than just online masses to get in touch with their congregations. They're also out there getting with people though they're taking some unusual steps. Father Stephen Tilley from the Diocese of Salt Lake City, Utah, is offering drive-through reconciliations for his parishioners. He says in these uncertain times, the sacrament can help steer people in the right direction.
Probably people are a little worried, a little panicked, and it's good to go back to the solid rock of faith, Jesus Christ, that reminds us that everything's going to be okay.
Father Tilley says he's no stranger to hearing confessions outside of a chapel. He's forgiven people's sins on planes and trains. In the end, he says it doesn't matter. The sacrament stays the same. And finally tonight, a flying priest from the Diocese of Camden, New Jersey. He's taking the Blessed Sacrament into the skies to give his parishioners hope during the coronavirus crisis. Once again, here's Currents News' Tim Harfman with the story.
This is holy water. I don't know if you brought any.
120 knots and 1,000 feet isn't normally where you would find the Blessed Sacrament or a statue of the Blessed Mother. But Father Anthony Manapella and Father John Sayo of St. Gianna Beretta Mola Parish in Northfield, New Jersey, took to the air, praying the Litany of the Saints and prayers for deliverance as they traveled the perimeter of the Diocese of Camden. Father Anthony saw a video of the Air Force in Italy flying a priest on the plane to bless the people and try to mitigate what is happening.
I saw that, and then some of my parishioners says, well, maybe we can do it. And of course I jumped on it right away.
Using history as a guideline, Father Anthony brought the importance of the Blessed Sacrament during times of tribulation.
Popes would process in the streets with the monstrance, with the Blessed Sacrament. In fact, one of the popes ordered that the Blessed Sacrament would be exposed in every church in Rome for 40 hours. And after that time, the plague seemed to subside. So in that same tradition, instead of walking in procession with Jesus, we're going to fly with him around the perimeters of the whole diocese. So that way we can pray that Jesus will bless, heal, and we pray that this virus will be contained, will be stopped. Because medicine is wonderful, but at a certain point, it's only God that can effect miracles.
Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Many of his parishioners at St. Gianna Beretta Mola Church were worried about their pastor taking the flight, but Father Anthony says extraordinary times called for divine measures. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Be well. God bless. Good night.